What's up, Sassy Gamers? Today is April 22nd, 2021, and I'm Mike, and this is Got Our Attention podcast number 45. I'm actually here with also today, we got Brian.
Wow, you upped the complexity there and nailed it.
I know, it was crazy.
That was a twofer. That was pretty amazing. I'm excited to be here today. I love this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I think the plan that he's talking about is the fact that we actually have a special guest today. So we have a friend of ours who is also a content creator. He's also a host of his own podcast. It's called Infinite Boost, where he interviews. Well, I'll let him kind of talk about that. But anyway, let's welcome Tom.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on
Anytime.
the show. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think I know we have some similar interests. We've kind of exchanged some of that stuff the other night, and I think it's gonna be a fun one. So let's start off. Obviously, we brought you in. Let's hear about yourself. So tell us a little bit about your podcast. I know that you interview. So it's called Infinite Boost, and it's available on Anchor as well, just like us. So it's anchor.fm/ what is it, Infinite Boost, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. So he interviews mostly Rocket League players, people who play Rocket League, but he does also have different people that do come in and also talk about different things that also kind of relate to Rocket League, which is pretty neat. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. Well, I mean, when you talk about things that relate to Rocket League, I kind of take a very worldly approach to how I look at Rocket League in terms of just improvement. The reason I started the podcast and what the podcast is about is just basically improvement at the game of Rocket League, because I wanted to do a podcast about Rocket League. And so I thought I could take a very selfish approach and just talk about improvement on a consistent basis, because I want to be improving at Rocket League. So it's like two birds with one stone, and there's not really anything like that out there. So
right.
it just seemed to really work out.
Yeah, we were talking about that a few minutes ago, as how with us doing kind of gaming overall news or tech news, interesting thing news, there's a lot of shows out there like this. So obviously we get that we're not the first ones, the pioneers of creating this style format. But like you said, looking for something like a Rocket League podcast, I didn't even think that was a thing until I spoke to you. And yours is obviously going to be unique.
I also think it's amazing too, because you're talking about, getting better at Rocket League, and what a good, friendly, social way to do it besides, hey, sitting down with someone and just talking to them about it, and, and talking about other things as well. But it just naturally comes up oh yeah, by the way, when I'm doing these things, that's a great way to do it. You're improving yourself, plus you share your wisdom with other people who want to improve, and everyone gets better.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm sharing any wisdom, but
Sure.
It's funny because I've been kind of stuck in Rocket League for a long time. I mean, I've been improving, but I feel like I would like to be a little bit farther along than where I am. And a lot of people will come by my Twitch chat when I'm streaming and be like, "Oh man, I just got GC for the first time last season. I listened to your podcast. It's helped so much." And I'm like, what am I doing?
What?
Here?
I'm not
all
GC.
All these people are getting better and better, and here I am just still in the same place, which I'm happy for them. It doesn't make me crabby. I could, and I mean, I've had stops and goes with the podcast, and part of that is frustration about being stuck. But at the end of the day, I'm really happy for the listeners of my show, and that they enjoyed so much, that they get so much out of it. And it's been a pleasure to be able to bring some of the knowledge and understanding of the game that some of the people I've talked to, because I've talked to, coaches in RLCS. I've had one RLCS professional player on there. I've had lots of people with college experience, high level players. So it's been a lot of fun to be able to bring that to people in a way that they wouldn't, ever had the opportunity otherwise. So it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Awesome. And then for those of you who knew that I've been on a 5-month hiatus from Rocket League, I haven't played since I think it was November or December. I broke that. Surprise! Spoilers, that'll come up later when we get to what we've been playing. But that's also kind of what sparked this up. But Tell me a little bit about your content creation. I know I checked out your YouTube page, and it's literally just Tom because that's your YouTube. But I noticed you had a couple of Valheim videos, one that's actually taken off, and it was more of an instructional video.
Yeah. I mean, I wish that I could have better things to say about my content creation, at least the consistency. It's something that I've always been interested in and just never, for whatever reason. I mean, there are lots of reasons, but I don't want to take up the whole hour. It's just hasn't been consistent. But, in terms of like YouTube and Twitch and podcasts and things of that nature, I pay a lot of attention to the culture and what people are doing. I'm fascinated by it. I love it. And now I guess this, however many go of it, is a time that I'm taking it just a little bit more seriously and hopefully can make a really good go of it. And you bring up the Valheim stuff. So I'm sure Phoenix had mentioned that you are a survival game fan, Mike. And when Valheim came out, a couple of friends of mine were like, I didn't know what it was. And my friends were like, oh, we're going to be Vikings today. Does everybody want to be Vikings? And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about?
Right.
So they're like, oh, we're playing this game called Valheim and we're Vikings. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I was a little frustrated with Rocket League at the time, as people are,
understandable,
from time to time. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'm going to buy it. It was like $20, maybe $30.
Right.
And I downloaded it and we were all playing it. And I was like, this game is so cool.
Right.
This game is a lot of fun. And so I was like, I should try making some videos about this. And I found one guy that had made a build video and I just made like a quick little tutorial, whatever. It didn't do very well. And then I made one more that did a little bit better. And then I was searching on YouTube, like different search words just to like see what people, and nobody had really made a video about docks. And one of the first days that we started playing the game, as I was digging down into the ground close to like an ocean, I noticed that if you dig down far enough, water just magically appears. Like it doesn't come from anywhere, but like if you go low enough, water's just there. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And so I got the crazy idea to like dig out a big area and make a pool.
Nice.
So like I made this big area and made a pool out of it. And then I made this ugly contraption, just trying to build as high as I could to make a high dive. So I made a video out of us like climbing up on this thing and just doing a bunch of crazy stuff off this high dive. And then I noticed on YouTube that there were no really good videos about docks. And then I also saw a lot of people complaining on Reddit about having to build in the water because it's just a little frustrating if you played Valheim. And then the wood gets degraded and it doesn't look very good. So I thought to myself, I could take this idea of like digging out the land and letting the water come inland instead of building off of the land.
Makes sense.
And like a different way to build docks. And it just went crazy. Like it's like at 270 or 280,000 views now. At the time that I made that video, I had like under 300 subscribers and now I'm almost at like 1,400, which is, it's nothing crazy, but at the same time, for somebody that has always aspired to do something like this, it was a lot of fun having it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I can't say that we have that many or anything, but it is the thing. It's, finding something that you like and finding something that was needed and you willing to make a video about it. Because that's the thing is if it's not available out there, I mean, that's like prime real estate really. So you can make the video, make it work for yourself. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. The way I watched the video and it was an interesting way to build like that. And that worked out. And it's like, man, I didn't really think about that because we've all played Valheim and we've not really had a good time in the water because of just, how janky things are sometimes. But yeah, it was a cool video.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
No problem.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I also totally get what you were talking about earlier with content creation and just the consistency of it, which usually that's how you build and maintain an audience is consistency. Other than, like you said, just having something go viral and you get your, like an initial start of an audience that way a lot of times. So when you kind of run into that, what do you do to get past that, to get past like the writer's block, as it were?
Oh gosh. You're going to put me on a soapbox here. Okay. So again, and it kind of throws me off a little bit to talk about this because I obviously have had very minimal success when it comes to this stuff. So I'm not a guru. I don't have all the answers or anything like that. I do have my opinions and my thoughts. And basically at the end of the day, like where I'm at right now is I'm looking at my content, Rocket League in general, like it's my job. Even though it's not making me a ton of money right now, if any money at all, like it's still my job. I'm growing a business. There are a lot of content creators or people that aspire to create content that like might make one video or think it's a little bit hard or want to, do something a certain way and it doesn't work. And then they just stop.
Right.
Because they post a video or they work, 20 hours on a video or something. It doesn't go off like they wanted to. And then, well, this is too frustrating and I don't want to put in that work and I'm done. And at the end of the day, I'm telling myself that this is a business and it's something that I'm growing and it's going to take a lot of time and effort and daily practice to get there. Like it's so if I have a bad day or if I have a bad video or something doesn't work out, then that's just a bad day at the office. And I still have to come back to the office the next day and get back to work.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Whether or not it works out, we'll see.
So that was more of a rough question. Here's a much easier one because you already helped us out with one big one. That's an example of this before the podcast started. You had mentioned this little piece of software for us to check into on our side called Zencastr, which looked fantastic. So on the content creation side, besides Zencastr, what's one of your favorite pieces of software that maybe people know about, maybe people don't know about, but you think it's very useful in content creation?
Well, so I will say, even outside of content creation, something that I use on a very, very regular basis is a web app that's called Coda, which is a doc backwards. It's a startup in California, and basically what they have created is, or their premise is that Word documents, spreadsheets are something that haven't changed literally since the 70s when they were first put on a computer. Yeah. So they're doing everything that they can to create this modern kind of collaboration organization tool that is extremely aesthetically pleasing and also very, very easy to use. So it's kind of like a Word document and a spreadsheet all in one. So if you need to like organize a list of articles for a podcast, or you're building a shopping list, or like anything that you want to build and create, there's a way to do it in Coda. It's free up to a certain point, so you can get comfortable with it. You can use it. It makes it really easy to use and kind of frictionless. And then also it has the power of spreadsheets where you can build formulas and you can organize things, you can filter things, you can color code things. It's super, super handy. And I really, really like it. That's cool. Like I said, yeah, I found it when it was in a private beta in 2017. And nice. I DM'd their Twitter account and was like, any way I can get into this?
I need this.
Yeah. And then they were nice enough to let me in. And I've been using it for everything since then. It's just a lovely, lovely tool.
Nice. Yeah, we kind of use OneNote for our collaboration as far as like the podcast and different things, because it's easy. It's one of the easier ones we found that we already basically had because of subscription. And then we're able to like, see who's making updates in real time. We can, change things and update things there. So, but yeah, that sounds pretty cool. We'll have to check that one out as well.
Yes. Yeah. It's awesome.
I threw it up there really quick. And to be clear, we are not sponsored by any of these people. There's no sponsorship going on here. But I did.
If you want to sponsor us, I mean,
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're open for sponsorship. Now, I did throw it up there really quick because I went to the site really quick, and just the tagline is enough of this sheet.
Yeah.
And
which is great.
and it got a spreadsheet up against her face. I was like, okay, that's at least worth throwing up on the podcast really quick. For those listening and not watching any of the video, go check out the site, CODA. It's a funny joke. Even if you don't use it, that enough was worth a fun little look.
It's a really cool company. The two co-founders are former Google employees.
Okay.
So they really know what they're doing. It's a really awesome company. I really like that product.
Cool.
Mm.
Yeah, it almost looks like
and they do have a mobile app too. So like if you're I don't know if it's on Android yet, but on iOS. So like you can build whatever you want on the web browser and then use it right on your phone as well. It's super handy.
Cool.
Very cool. All right, Mike. You're steering the ship.
Well, I thought you didn't want me to give you an intro to doing something before the news. Thought you didn't want me to give you a segue.
I wanted to give you the opportunity of doing a terrible one.
Oh no, I don't even want to do it today. I'm done. You can take it away.
Mission accomplished.
Right? Exactly. No, before we started the news, I wanted to just give an update. You know, we've talked about StopCamSign Cam, which was this wonderful little Twitch site that was pretty much 24/7, except for when his batteries ran out and they had to go change the batteries, that pointed at a stop sign that no one ever stopped at unless they were forced to stop. Like the cops didn't even stop at the stop sign. But I did want to give an update because that's so yesterday. See, now you need to check out Shrimp 247. That's right.
Oh my god.
24/7. You can look at shrimp that are in this aquarium.
So I really should have got the bird street fights, or whatever we said, bird fight bets or whatever I was going to download.
Bird fight bets.
Buy bird fight bets, because my bird feeder is still going off the chain outside, and I think I need to get that moving, because obviously people are watching shrimp, they'll watch bird fights. I mean, that's
absolutely.
Wait.
I mean,
yes,
they're watching the shrimp. You've got a second computer that you can hook it up to and just do a 24/7 stream off that other computer. You got the bandwidth for it.
it's true.
You know, you could just hook it up there real easily and you know, get something that you can zoom in a little bit, I guess.
a good friend of mine is really into bird watching and like identifying birds and things of that nature. And
wow.
there are a good number of bird streams on YouTube that she will check in with on a consistent basis.
Interesting.
So that is a definite thing.
Yeah, I was like, because I have a lot of birds in my backyard that fight. I have a lot, like it's literally, like I said, bird fight bets, because it's like they're always constantly coming in to get the feed, because it's just, that's like, I guess the only one in the neighborhood that I have one. So they're having a good time back there.
It's currently available for $1 a month.
Yeah, you could really corner that market. That's a possibility.
Oh man, I keep talking about, I'm probably gonna have to do it at this point. All right, well, let's get into the news. So this first story it's upsetting, and I'll explain why.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a post on Reddit that a user went to, was our legal advice, I believe was the subreddit they were looking at. And they posted something into the saying of, it was a throwaway account. It was actually like Po Legal Throwaway 00. And what it said was like, hey, I'm a disabled gamer, and I was actually banned from Path of Exile online due to using macros, because I'm not able to, play the game normally because he's disabled. And they were looking for, some legal advice. So obviously Reddit takes hold of that and was like, what? Like, are you telling me Grinding Gear Games is like ban somebody for being disabled? Like, that's ridiculous. So of course this thing started an outrage, and it started getting to the Twitter accounts of Grinding Gear Games, even reached out to Able Gamers, the charity that I had worked with to raise money for and stuff. And they even reached out to the CEO, like going, hey, like, what's going on with this? Is this being investigated? And the CEO comes back and goes, well, I haven't heard of that. And like, we've looked into our records and we haven't banned anybody for that purpose. So, what are you talking about? So they went back And on the Reddit, the user had then been deleted. They said that the user was hacked initially, is what the person said from the account, and then the account initially just disappeared. So that happened, and everybody's like, well, what's going on with Grinding Gear Games? Like, this is crazy, causing a lot of flack, really, for this company. And turns out, I think it was like the day later, or even maybe later that afternoon, the person who ran that came out and said that they were actually a teacher. And what the idea was a social experiment. So he could show his classmates or his students that, you can sway people online by posting certain things. And what he did was he made this fictional story, posted it in a web chat, and then it blew up to show his point of, see, you can't always believe what you read on the internet, which is great, I guess, on that sense. But at the same time, he started almost people revolting against one of a company who's actually done really well, which I know Demir's talked about plenty for Path of Exile, and a lot of people play it. It's a free to play game, and there's just so much content. They always release new content, and have been very well with their crowd base. So to kind of do this is
my concern when I heard, especially when I heard it was a hoax, is that the old adage is, if you have something bad to say about someone, it goes out to 1,000 people. If you have something good to say, it goes out to maybe 10.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same here, that when the bad news hits, sure, it's in this subreddit of legal advice, but it goes out from there. Like you said, Able Gaming, a charity, reached out to Grinding Gear. All these people heard about this bad news. So when this person, and I'm trying to be very nice here because this is irritating, when that person says, oh, well, I was just trying to do this, to show my class or whatever. That's great. There's only a small set of people at that time, because that Reddit post is not going to be upvoted much or even downvoted all that much. People are just going to move on and not care. There's only going to be this small subset of people that finds out that it was a hoax. And that's a problem, because you now have put out all of this bad press for a company that didn't deserve it. Yeah. And for what? For something that has already been proven. Tell me if you've heard this one about how if you sleep with your mouth open, I think it's like throughout the year, you've swallowed like 100 spiders when you sleep.
Definitely heard.
You've heard that one before, right? That was started by an educator. It was a completely 100% false thing that an educator started.
What's with these educators making up?
But teachers, man.
But here's the difference, though. He did it for almost the same thing. Not necessarily swaying opinion, but how something can spread on the internet and how lies can spread on the internet. And it's exactly what he started it for. You can look this up. This is all true story. But see, what he did is he didn't point to a real person or a real company.
Right.
He made a fictitious story up, and that's a socially acceptable way to do it. That's cool. And it's funny because there's still people that believe that whole thing that, you'll swallow, 100 spiders a year because you sleep with your mouth open and stuff like that. When you don't swallow any. Spiders don't want to crawl into your mouth at all.
Yeah. It's interesting. In 10th grade, I remember it was U.S. history. We had a teacher. He was actually great at history. I mean, he had a lot of U.S. history, and he came in one day. We went to the class, and he told us a story about some president in the past or some political person, and this whole elaborate story. I mean, it took probably half the class. And then and everybody was like, "Wow, I'd never heard that, never knew that." And he goes, "Well, yeah, because I just made all that up." But the point is, since I'm a person that you trust, right, because you think I'm a teacher and I should know everything, you just believe me because I told you that. And in that case, he's like, that's why you should never just believe because someone told you. You should always do your research and always look into things. And I was like, wow, that's actually really good. So
yeah, and the funny thing is that the change in social structure since then till now is that we've gotten away from trusting figures of authority or knowledge that we're aware of.
Right.
And it's gone to, we're just trusting the internet and anything that's on the internet. Literally, brand new account in Reddit, says this in legal advice, and this blows up into a major story. A story so big that there were news sites reporting on this negative thing and spreading out further before it was determined to be a hoax.
Yeah,
and
that's just crazy. I mean, the outreach on the internet is obviously something.
Tom, I don't want to dox you here, so you don't have to say anything more about your past or anything like that. But my understanding is you got a little bit of past where you might have your own perspective on this as well.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know if you're talking about, well,
your past.
I don't know.
Your past and things your past professions or current professions and stuff like that.
Oh,
that
well,
intersect with that.
Just, yeah. I mean, I guess I used to be a teacher, if that's what you mean. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily know that in particular intersects with any of this, but just thinking about the world that we live in general, in all things, there's no more like truth anymore. There's always like two sides to everything, and people choose to believe what they want to believe because they get it from a source of their choosing. And that's taking what you're talking about to a whole different, bigger level. And at the same time, like people will just find something that on the internet and just instantly believe it. Like that's just fact. That's just what it is. And, especially looking at this story, it can be really bizarre when people decide to just believe something, but then when they see something that is vitally important or like really means something, it's, well, let's do all our research and let's make sure that we have all the facts straight. And you're really taking advantage of very specific situations to like prove a point with this.
Right.
Like if somebody went on to Reddit in the legal advice and was like, I got in a fight with my mom because I told her that the sky was actually purple instead of blue. And she was like, no, it's not. So she wrote me out of the will. And I don't think that's fair. It's a blatant lie, right? But nobody would care. Right. But when you go into legal advice and say that you're somebody that's disabled and you've been banned because you're trying to do what you can, yeah, people are going to be upset about that. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
It's
a trigger.
100%.
I'm a firm believer of there's two sides to every story and then there's the truth.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones I like now.
So I don't know if you guys remember this, but do you remember the whole Jussie Smollett thing? Did you know about this?
I don't think so.
I don't need to get into the whole story, but basically Jussie Smollett was on a show on Fox. I can't remember the name of it, but he's like a big time actor, right? And so he was in Chicago and was attacked, and he claimed it was a hate crime. Long story short, it turns out that he paid these guys to attack him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that does sound familiar.
I remember this.
So it goes from these guys getting away and him being this powerful survivor of a hate crime to finding out that he paid people to attack him, and then he goes to jail. So
So is that a real story, or are you just showing us that you can influence us too?
It's a real story. No, that's a real story that actually happened. And then he went to jail. I'm pretty sure he went to jail.
He just submitted the news articles to the outlets so we can see it when we check up our news feed now.
Yeah. And it's just, like you got, it doesn't work out in the long run one way or another. Like, why would you do this to yourself? Because now that teacher not only took advantage of a whole group of people that already don't have it very easy just to prove a point. And now the next time something like that shows up on Reddit, people aren't going to be like, let's help out. What do we do? It's, well, is this guy telling the truth?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is it really factual? Should we do anything about this? Like, the boy that cried wolf is a real story. I don't know if it's a real story.
Yeah.
Is a thing for a reason.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll say that.
Exactly. I think the other thing here too is there's two sides of the story and then there's the truth. Because I in no way, shape or form want to throw shade on any group of people, especially educators. Educators are so important to us. Yeah. We don't even know if this guy was telling the truth that he was an educator. All we know is that he did something that is detestable, and he may be an all right person who made a pretty dumb error. That happens, but still, this is a bad thing this person did. And we can just we don't need to go off on educators. We don't need to go off on any kind of group. It's this person made a huge error, and that person's got to live with it in some ways. And maybe they don't care, but they got to live with it. Speaking of making errors.
So can we consider this? Can we consider this what I'd said earlier? This next part, is it considered social justice? Is that a thing?
No, it's not. I don't know why you think this is social justice. It's so weird.
It's kind of social. That's funny. All right, go ahead. Sorry. I didn't mean to kill your.
I don't know why you think this is social justice. Maybe, okay. When you commentate, and you will be able to tell us why you think it fits in that. So I'm sure you have your reasons, because you usually do. They're usually good ones. There's, speaking of people making mistakes, listeners to our podcast will know that we can get quite spicy in our language. And we've actually taken a turn on that. We privately called last week's podcast "No F-bombs Given." And then within the 6-minute mark, Mike already messed that up last time. But
so far, so good, though. So far, so good.
So far, so good today. Yeah, we did that. We took this turn to try to reduce that significantly because of the concept of trying to build the brand and trying to very much how Tom said, treat it more like a business and work more on, future of building it as a business. And we can't, depending on the platform that you're on, you have less or more leeway when it comes to spicy language. So that's something that actually came up a couple of times in the news. The first one was actually Nextdoor. Now, for those that don't know it, Nextdoor is a social media platform for people that live in neighborhoods, and it kind of geographically groups people together. And you see posts about people that are near you, near being usually within 50 miles radius.
Yeah. Well, you can set it to your neighborhood.
Even just your neighborhood.
Yeah. Or the neighborhoods around you, or even you're saying, even out to 50 miles around you, all of Atlanta is what I get,
Yeah.
Especially when I'm looking for free stuff. I'm always the whole city looking for.
And Nextdoor is interesting because they've had to fight against things like people doing overly politically charged posts in the past that start arguments, and they're trying to keep it a positive place. This is a way where you can notify your neighbors of something or ask your neighbors questions and point out great things hey, there's this, one of the Nextdoor ones I have that I love is that there's this small business that's starting off. And this woman, she does other things, but she's been making tamales, and she'll make tamales. Yes. I think it's a buck of tamale, and she'll just make a pan of tamales for you. And they posted on Nextdoor, and she got orders and orders and orders coming up, for Christmas and stuff like that. And it was an amazing way to boost her business. And if there's the lost pets and stuff like that. But they've been fighting kind of some of the negative side of it. And one of the negative things that they decided to address was racism. And so they actually put an alert in Nextdoor as you're making a post to alert you that what you may be about to post could be considered racist. And it was quite interesting reading about this because all I could think of was Jeff Foxworthy with his whole, you might be a redneck if, and Nextdoor is sitting there, you might be a racist if.
Really? It does give you the option to continue posting it anyway.
Just let you know that it could be offensive.
It's like those apps you can download for your phone that are drunk apps. So it's are you sure you want to send this text to your ex? And you're type in this math code, and you're I can't do math. It's 3 a.m. and I'm wasted.
Yeah. And, one of the example they show is that someone responds to a Black Lives Matter post by saying all lives matter, and then decides they'd actually like to hear the person out before seeing the anti-racism notification come up. So I think it's interesting because it's like, what kind of filters? Yeah, sure. You got like the buzzword AI, but I mean, AI isn't actively real time doing this stuff. All AI does is build better algorithms for you to catch things. But I mean, like, what are they catching? They did say though, that this kindness reminder, which is one of the things that they call it, has reduced incivil content by 30%. So incivil content.
That's an interesting word.
Right? So they say it seems to be effective by reducing it by 30%. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, they also say like the blue lives matter and all lives matter and white lives matter and regulating all those things among other things. I can say I haven't seen it mostly because I don't post on Nextdoor. I won't say that. I won't say that I wouldn't have said something stupid because sometimes there was a tweet recently. A content creator was kind of just doing like a funny jab at TikTok posts by she searched like, oh, what's all the slang that TikTok people are using, right? And she did this tweet that was like da 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 da. And then a lot of people said, that's pretty offensive because that's I think it's American African vernacular. I'm getting that wrong. I know I'm getting that wrong. Somebody have to look up what it actually is. But there's a term for the vernacular used in common African American speech, and that trying to emulate that is offensive. And I get that because it's just like people who do sounds that sound like Asian languages to emulate the Asian language is extremely offensive. It's the same concept. Yeah. Or using specific terms in like Spanish and stringing them all together to try to seem hip. It could be very offensive. So I get it. And she honestly didn't know she was doing that because she was Googling something else to get those words. So I can see how you can accidentally do some of that stuff. And something like this on Nextdoor could be kind of useful.
So the reason I said social justice is because the act of removing these things is great. And that would be like social justice, right? But in this case, it seems like a good attempt, like a good try. I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but hey, it's a step in the right direction.
I mean, if they say it's reduced it by 30% by just reminding the person making the post that what they're putting it may be offensive, and that reduces it and people delete it. Cause I mean, that was their main thing, is not necessarily deleting other people's posts, but preventing the poster from saying something intentionally or accidentally that is offensive.
Yeah.
But that kind of moved on to something that's a little bit more in our wheelhouse, which is, what do you do about toxicity in voice chat while you're gaming? I could see even that this could be useful in podcasts in the future, maybe. And that is Intel in a recent kind of, they were at a conference virtually and talking about AI processing and some of the things that it can do. And they came up with this concept of bleep, based on the fact that, you bleep out naughty words, as it were, right? And I first said this to Mike, and Mike's like, that's so cool. When can we use this? We need this for our podcast.
Right. In real time.
In real time. And
like immediately.
Yeah.
You mean like live?
Well, it'd be nice if it were live. And I think this is for live because they were positioning this as for voice chat. actually.
Mhm.
So just immediately just bleeping out words or taking them out. What made it, I don't know if funny is the right word, but what it made it kind of odd in a funny way was some of the slides. And there's some videos out there on this. You can go find the video of Intel and Bleep. It's super easy to Google it, but just this poor guy that's sitting in front of this slide that says things like, okay, the N word on and off, that makes sense. But then they got sliders, and the sliders go from none to some to most to all, just in case you want all of the name calling, or maybe you like that kind of language, so you want all of the sexually explicit language. But maybe you want to turn your slider down on that white nationalism. So that white nationalism, it goes from all, and then you slowly move it down to none, and they just start to lose their Southern accent.
Huh. Terrible.
So I really don't get the slider.
The slider seems really weird. It should just be all checkbox, like on or off. Like, you don't want to hear it, turn it off. Why do you have a slider? Like, I don't even want to listen to some swearing, some white nationalism, but not a lot of it. So only a little bit.
I like to hear most of the racism and xenophobia that's being thrown my way. I'm like,
I mean, if it can pick up sarcasm, like really thick sarcasm, not only are they on their way to some really good technology, but like, and here's the thing. There are some comedians that can get on a stage and just be so blatantly racist. They're not racist because they might be making racist jokes, but they're jokes because they're comedians. But some comedians can't do that. So if you're like in your private Discord and you had the racism slider turned all the way up, but you're making a joke with very thick sarcasm, does that one slide through? I mean, just me saying that out loud makes me look like kind of a bad person. Like, it's no, I'm not saying that I do that all the time, that I'm just sitting with my friends and like throwing around these racist jokes. But that was more just like thinking about why you would have a slider and what this slider would be capable of.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I get what you're saying. It is interesting technology that we obviously don't really even know if it works yet, but it is kind of interesting for sure.
Or if it's really beneficial. Like, this is a Band-Aid to a problem that is much bigger than just bleeping things out. Like, what I would like is to find a way to get all these people that are throwing out all this racism and xenophobia and name calling and all this disrespect. Let's like fix those people. Yeah. Help those people so that they don't want to do it in the first place. Yeah. Maybe that's an idea. Work on that, Intel.
Yeah.
Give us $5 million and help people be better people. Hello.
No doubt. And to back up for just a moment, if this thing has a slider for sarcasm and gets really good at detecting sarcasm, then I'm going to be silenced for at least half of every podcast.
I know, it'll just be silent. We won't be doing very well at this point. Another thing it does is also chat. So it's supposed to monitor chat as well and be able to real time, take out words and things from chat, which can also be very helpful for streamers and things like that as well. So
I legit am looking forward to see how this does and how it evolves. I think their heart is in the right place. I agree with Tom that, some of the money could be spent of like almost like the Nextdoor side of it. Instead of just silencing them, just kind of whispering in your ear, like, hey, you're being kind of a racist a-hole right now. Maybe you should chill it out a little bit.
They pause you for like 3 seconds on speech because you have to hear the message.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. How fun. How fun.
The posts are down 30%, but racism is up 150%. So it's a win.
So speaking of wins, so I know we haven't done a Cyberpunk weekly update in a long time, and there's obviously a reason for that. But I did have some interesting news to bring to you. So I guess if you want to throw the intro, you can. If not, I will just continue. No intro? Okay, great. So CD Projekt Red has actually announced that even after all of their refunds, they had sold 13.7 million copies, even after issuing 30,000 refunds. The total approximate money, the only cost the company approximated was 2.17 million, which is a drop in the bucket compared to the $560 million that they actually made in revenue in 2020. So there's, they say over 95% of the process of the refunds have already been processed. There's only 5% left, which there's like probably the difficult part because of banking and then also the companies who like the, what do you call it? Like the Steam and different like places you're buying it from. So having to go through some of those hoops, but ultimately CD Projekt Red is laughing at all of us because they made so much money and, they're still swearing to make the game better, I guess.
I almost think you said that backwards because you talked about how much they sold first. And I almost missed the point. They only issued 30,000 refunds out of 13 million sold. Only 30,000. That's ridiculous. Now, granted, the article does say that is refunds that they directly issued. It isn't necessarily refunds that Sony made to their customers or Xbox, Microsoft made to their customers. But you would think that they would back it up the chain and say, okay, CD Projekt Red, we had to do these refunds, especially since you tweeted out saying everybody can get a refund. So you got to give us our money too. Right. Which is why CD Projekt Cyberpunk 2077 still is not on the Sony store. You cannot buy it anymore for Sony.
Yep. Yeah, it's still got work to do. There's been a lot of updates, but it's definitely still not. It's not the AAA game that they hyped up the game to be. It's just not there yet. And
is it ever going to be? Like,
it really depends on if they want to be a No Man's Sky or they want the game to just be CD Projekt or Cyberpunk 2077. Because
I mean, so often you hear about vaporware, but never have you heard about vaporware that actually launched and then unlaunched.
Yeah,
like it's. When has that ever happened that a game has launched, done so poorly and so well all at the same time?
Yeah, I think there was one other game that PlayStation ever pulled from the store. I can't remember what it was right offhand, but there was one other game, and it wasn't a significant game like what Cyberpunk 2077 was meant to be. So it for a game at that caliber from I wouldn't say CD Projekt Red's a AAA studio, I guess, but from a studio that's really well known for some of their games, for them to put out a game that doesn't even stay in a PlayStation store is pretty wild.
Well, considering the marketing and everything that they put behind this game for years.
Right.
Not to mention Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal. And now you can't even buy it on the PlayStation? I mean.
And there's been some similar things too. You got there was that game, I think it was Beyond Human, that released, sold in stores. They found out that they had essentially stolen code and not credited appropriately or
oh wow,
or paid the royalties for it. And the reason, the way the other company was able to prove it is they said, yes, and here's this bug in your game, because that bug comes from our code and we never released any information about that bug. And it's very specific in what it does. And you have that exact same thing in your code. And so they pulled it off shelves. So they won their court case, and they totally pulled that off shelves, off not just, the digital stores, but all shelves. So that was one. Some people actually went out like on eBay and was like buying up copies thinking that it was going to become rare or something. Never did. And there's a couple other things like that, but it's like you said, it's rare. It does not happen very often. I cannot find the one that happened before. I think we mentioned it last time when we talked about this being pulled off the store, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head right now. I should.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with that game. And Mike, I think that No Man's Sky is such an excellent example of like the potential of games these days and what can happen. Like No Man's Sky won an award for best ongoing game or something like that at the Game Awards. Like people
was that
love
actually
that
a thing
game
before? Was that an actual award to win before they make it up for No Man's Sky? Because I mean, it does deserve an award. I mean, Hello Games did a phenomenal 180 and fixed everything, which again, at the launch of them, they were kind of pressured by Sony to get the game out because it was a PlayStation exclusive initially, but it was, you know, they did a 180. They really, not only did they basically half off the game for a while, did they release the content to get the game to where it needed to be, then they kept releasing content. They keep releasing DLC, and it's all free. And they've gone way above and beyond the $60 mark that the game was valued at. And they just keep putting out more content. And I think it's like almost caused a culture with that company now, being that we saw last week, we saw that other game, the Little Campfire, also getting an update. So it's just it's a neat thing to see that the company actually did that and kept moving forward with it.
Yeah, so I'm just looking on the best ongoing games just because it is kind of like a weird title or like award. So No Man's Sky did win it in 2020. Fortnite won in 2018 and 2019, and Overwatch won in 2017.
Okay.
Nice.
So most of those are, well, FPSs, like games that are battle royale FPS. So it's like, you could see that obviously ongoing because those games are continuously being played on like esports and things. So for No Man's Sky, a game that's at heart single player with multiplayer abilities, now actually better. Like you don't really just see that. You don't really see that being a title that's continuously worked on. Usually that stuff's done after the first, year or two, and then they move on to the project. So that's pretty neat.
Well, and I think the expansiveness of a game like No Man's Sky allows to continue to add more and more content to it. And they're making the game that they, wanted to make 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So No Man's Sky is a really good story. And I appreciate them taking all the millions of dollars that they made from selling a half-baked game in whatever year it came out and turning it into this beautiful thing that it is now, that I have like 45 minutes in on Steam.
It's funny because I remember listening to some IGN podcasts back in I think 2015. I think the game came out 2016 if I remember correctly. But I remember listening to podcasts talking about this game that was coming out and like the idea of like you're going to be able to have a ship and just blast into space and I'm listening to this going like, man, that sounds really cool. And then the launch happened and I was like, wow, I'm glad I didn't buy that game. And then eventually I did buy it, but
to be fair, I mean a lot of this it was mostly the multiplayer stuff that they didn't deliver on launch for feature wise. I mean, you could get into a ship and you could launch into space and you could go to different planets. It's just that there was no real drive. They
were missing a lot of content. I mean, it wasn't.
Well, they were missing a lot of story content. Yeah. They were heavily relying on the procedurally built content. But there was things to be disappointed about. There was definitely things that they were 100% honest about, and that's exactly what they delivered on. It's just that people kind of built it up in their minds to be even more. And there were things that they said that weren't there at launch as well. But yeah, it was a disappointment for everybody, and they turned it the heck around because regardless of whether that disappointment was based on actual factual things they said or not, doesn't matter. People were disappointed, and it's hard with that level of disappointment to just turn it around 180 degrees and have so many people just saying, this is an amazing success story. That's rare. I cannot find that game at all, but I don't know. I'll probably find it later and maybe post it in the comments of the YouTube video when it comes out. In the meantime, talking about something a little bit more epic, literally Epic Game Store. I have not looked at what the games are this week. I'm not going to give that update. We're getting close to the end of the month anyway, so another one of those videos will hopefully be produced. More interestingly, though, Epic Game Store, in their quest of getting more eyes and more games and building the store up, they are now offering in their store the itch.io store, an app. You can download an app, and that app opens up itch.io, which is already a game store that tends to focus on more of the indie and smaller side of things. They're not offering itch.io titles. You can download the itch.io app, which has access to 200,000 titles, which are now going to be. This is actually kind of a nice collaboration. As weird as it sounds, it's a nice collaboration because you have 31.3 million active daily users on the Epic Game Store that now might be incentivized to go to itch.io. And itch.io has 200,000 titles that they can get in front of the eyes of all these Epic customers.
Yep. And also it does have assets as well. So I'm not a game developer. I have made a single playable for me game before. Very, like I said, this is not fancy in any way. But some of the assets I did use from that were free assets that were available on the website, which people had uploaded and, said, hey, here's some free stuff you guys want to use. Go for it. So it is definitely geared towards that indie, very small developer type mind, which is great. And there's also paid assets you can pay for. But it is really neat. I actually helped out a person on there that was doing a dungeon D&D board game maker. Like you can make maps. It's a map maker, but it's all 3D rendered, so you can actually have like people join you and stuff. And it was really neat to see that. But again, here's Epic trying to keep the indie side, which is what they've been kind of doing. They bought Psyonix for Rocket League, then they got what was the other game recently we mentioned that they had just taken over? Fall Guys, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So here again this is like the ultimate indie push that they've done, which is great because, like you said, all these little developers and little people are going to get some visibility out of it.
Yeah.
So then do you buy the games through the Epic Store? Like if you pick a game in the itch.io thing, do you have to make a new account then? Like, what's the benefit of this? Besides like the visibility.
Visibility, it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like visibility is the only benefit because you literally have an itch.io app. It sounds like you would have to create an account with them and be able to buy through them. But yeah, it just gets it in front of more eyes. Interestingly enough.
Go ahead.
Well, I was say it's almost like Xbox Game Pass with EA Play. So like I want to play EA Play. I have Xbox Game Pass. I log into that, and then I launch EA Play to have. But I mean, it's free. Everything's free on that. But in that example of like launching another app from an app that's the only thing I can think of.
Well, so if you ask me, I don't know about you guys, but I am a large or a strong advocate for Apple. So you may or may not have seen like all of the hullabaloo and back and forth that Apple and Epic have been having regarding payments and fees and things like that for Fortnite. And one of the arguments that I believe Epic and just everybody in general is making, like, open up Apple to other stores, like let other people have stores on the iPhone so that we can sell things the way that we want to sell them. And when I hear about Epic using their Epic store to put another store in their store, it's like, look, Apple, we can do it. You can do it too. It's not that hard.
Absolutely. And that is probably part of the push because Apple was very adamant on we're not letting you incentivize any sort of in-game purchases without us having a piece of the pie. And I get that. I get why Apple's doing that. And I understand that. But at the same time, you're going to miss out on content. I mean, there's going to be things that you won't be able to do. Or as a developer, it kind of sucks because you're not able to try to make a little extra money from skins or whatever. So yeah, I definitely think it's part of that as well, for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like almost a political move, legal political move on their side. And again, two sides to everything. I don't think Apple is 100% blameless on this either because they actually do have other companies that have stores within their store that for those companies, they allow in-app purchases.
They allow in-app purchases for Epic. It's just Epic doesn't want to pay the money. Like Epic doesn't want to give up their 30%.
No, it's not just the money. They have specific language on how you can have those stores, and they let other people not abide by that language. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's their prerogative. I don't know enough about the contracts to say whether it's written in there or not or anything like that. But I know that's one of the things that, Epic was pushing against is like, hey, but these people over here are doing almost the same thing that we want, but because they're, this huge company, you're letting them do it and not us. Although Epic acting like they're not a big company when they're a multi-billion dollar company at this point is flipping ridiculous. I think we said it before. It's just a billionaire slap fight, and
100%.
Whoever comes out on top is like, I don't care.
At the end of the day, both of these companies are going to be doing just fine no matter what. And, I guess I don't know all the finer details. So I guess I shouldn't speak out of turn.
Oh, go ahead.
That's fun.
We do it all the time.
No, I just don't know which way it goes. And like, as far as I'm concerned, and I will preface this, but for any listener or any person that might hear this and think I'm an idiot or a moron, that's fine. Feel that way. I'm a huge Apple fan. I'm an Apple fanboy through and through. Take it to the grave. I love their stuff. And Epic would not have a phone to put Fortnite on if it weren't for Apple. So just give them their money and you're still going to make a ton. So just take it on the chin, smile, let Fortnite be on the iPhone again, and just get it. Like, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, this is definitely just a pissing match.
Yeah. And also, to be fair, Epic has fought pretty dirty and done some downright nasty things in this whole thing. And yeah, the way I didn't even think of it that way, Tom, until you brought it up, that this very much could be just another salvo in this war, that they're like, oh, well, we're not charged, or we're not doing the same things to itch.io. It could be very much.
Well, cool. That's going to be wrapped up for our news. Hang tight just a few minutes here. Listen to a word from our sponsor, and we'll be back to tell you about what we've been playing. And we're back. So we're going to talk about what we've been playing. And this past week for Game of the Moment, what we did play was a game called Dungeon of the Endless. It is a co-op game. You can play single player. I was actually playing some single player of it today, which I can talk about in a second. But we played it multiplayer, up to 4 players. It's free right now on Xbox Game Pass. You can check it out. I think an original price, I should have looked it up. I don't know. I'm going to guess it's probably like $15 or something, maybe 20. I don't know.
Yep. I think I said $11.99 during the stream.
Oh, okay, cool. So $11.99.
But I'll double check it.
So it is a roguelike game that is, you're basically in a spaceship that crashes into, I guess, a planet or ship or something to that nature. Kind of, I don't know, they really explain that much. It's very, I think it's 16-bit, but your characters have all different kind of stats, so you get to pick the type of character you have, and there's different abilities for speed or actual... are you a tank? Are you just an archer kind of situation?
The pug's a tank.
The pug is a tank. There is a pug dog that is a tank.
With a hammer.
Yeah. So the way it starts off, you're in one room and you don't actually move your character in this game. You actually direct your character on where to go. So you click on the next room. You have an option to open the door. Once you open the door, then your character runs to that location. And then when that character gets in there, if there's enemies to be found, it'll just start attacking the enemy until they've either killed it or they've killed your character. So depending on the characters you use, there's some stats that go along with it. So if some characters are really good with everybody helping them, and then they get a buff for that, or they may be good solo, and then when they have other people help them, that's when their stats go down. But the whole object of the game is to take the starting room that you're in. There's a gem that powers the actual ship, and you want to move that to the end room, whatever the room is. That's the ending that has the receptacle to put the gem back into.
But trying to an exit.
The exit, yeah. So to get to that point, though, you have to go through each room. You do research. You build modules that go on these little center platforms in the room, and by that's how you gain your what do you call it? Resources, essentially. There's industry. There's crop, which I think is food, and then there's science as well. And each of those, each time you open a door, you get some back. So opening one door, if you have a +3, then when you walk through the next door, you get +3. and then you can increase those plus amounts by adding modules to different rooms. So it's kind of towards the end of it, we kind of started figuring it out. But the idea is you want to be able to put down the resources you have available for you, the modules, so that you get the biggest bang for your buck when you open the next door. Until you get to the point where the exit's available and you're ready to try to trek towards the exit. Because when you start the exit, that's when you move the gem, as soon as you click it, that's when the endless wave of enemies start coming. And you hope that you've set up each room in a way that will either protect you, give you health, or battle back to try to help yourself get to the exit. The one word of caution is, we found this out live on the stream, is that just because the player who's delivering the gem gets to the exit and is ready to go doesn't mean that you all complete the level. So it took us, an hour to probably get to the exit, like get to one game that we actually didn't die and get to the exit. And we're all excited. Like, we're there. We're like, yeah.
No.
And he hits the button.
Mike's being nice. Mike's being nice. I had the gem. I walked into the exit. I was super excited we made it to the exit. And as soon as that button said, take elevator, go up, I was like mashing it. And as I'm mashing it, I'm like, what does 2/4 mean?
And
no. Oh,
so
no.
They start off the next level and we're like, well, no, they couldn't do that too. This game isn't that brutal. Next level starts.
No.
There's only 2 characters there. I am not an option, and neither is, I think Bruno was out that round too. So we were like,
no, I mean, like,
okay.
To get an idea of how brutal this game is, it took us multiple failed attempts, over an hour to get to the exit for the first time.
Yeah.
And what difficulty setting were we playing on?
Oh, we were playing on easy. Yeah. So
easy.
There's 2 options of difficulty in the game. There's easy and very easy. So I naturally chose easy because I figured it would be easy. That is not the case.
No.
So you can start off with different ships. Different ships do give you different stats on the start. So there was one ship that we use that like gives you extra food per round, but then all the monsters are harder and things. So there's give and take on those, and there was just a lot of neat aspects of the game. Like I said, I started playing it again solo today with a controller, and it was pretty easy to figure out with like multiple characters like that, which I thought would be a little more difficult.
Yeah, there's some cool things where. So you have these 3 different currencies. We have industry currencies for building. You have science currency for researching. And then you have food currency. And that's where it gets fun, because food currency can heal you. That makes sense. Food currency is also used on how you level yourself up. And then on top of that, food currency is how you buy new equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this super important currency, but you can't get it unless you're spending industry and, and killing monsters and stuff like that. But if you're killing monsters, you're using it to heal yourself. So there's a lot of give and take of like, oh, should I use 25 and heal myself up? Or should I use 15 and buy this new armor? You're like, and you don't have a lot of time to think about this stuff. I mean, in some ways you have all the time in the world until you touch that gem, but in other ways it's like there's only so much you can do on the level, and you only increase your currency by opening doors or killing monsters. And the monsters, while sometimes randomly spawn, for the most part they don't. So at a point you just run out of currency where you're not gaining anything anymore, and you just got to suck it up and grab that gem and run. And whoever carries the gem, spoilers, can't run. They're the lowest people of the
and can't
slow.
attack. Like they're not contributing to anything other than just trying to get to the exit. So really neat, interesting game. It's like I said, I started it again in single player. I'd recommend playing it. It's not a lot of people playing it online, at least. So when you make a room, like you're not going to be able to join someone else. Most likely, there was only like one other person I think playing in a room. But definitely a very interesting game, a different type of game. In a sense of like I said, you don't move your character. The character just kind of goes to the room you assign it, and you can move your character around like that. But strategy is definitely a good part of this game, because not only do you have to, like I said, put modules down and things. Well, there's also a research module that you come to, and you can research an item if you have enough industry for it. And that item, you can decide on what you want it to be, whether it's like maybe it increases the actual turret that you're using, or does it maybe attack your other players if there's any dead players around and give you extra industry for that or whatever. So it's a neat concept.
Yeah, it's $11.99 on Steam, and it is also free currently on Xbox Game Pass. And our Game of the Moment video will drop Saturday at 12 noon.
Sweet. Yeah, so check it out. If you like it, play it, and then let us know what you think.
What is the name of this game again?
It's Dungeon of the Endless.
Yes.
See, Tom's interested now. He wants to play
Brutal of the Brutals.
It is definitely brutal.
Almost Bloodborne, except that Bloodborne is more skill-based, whereas this is more kind of strategy-based. Because one thing I don't think we made clear there, you don't control your characters. You tell your characters where to go, and that's it.
Well, I definitely saw that.
You don't fight. Oh, you probably did. I wasn't listening this time.
Twice.
So it's like a roguelite simulator.
Kind of. Yeah, it's it's a hero manager. We're seeing a lot of games like this recently.
Yeah,
like Loop Hero and in this game.
Yeah, but Dungeon of the Endless has been around for years. I had it on Steam years ago and bounced off of it because I didn't figure it out.
Yeah, it's 7 years old almost. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing with this game, I would say it's actually harder playing with other people because not only do you have everybody kind of doing what they want to do, the resources that you're using, you can actually trade with other characters. Like you can actually give, which we found out you can actually give your character to other characters as well, which is interesting. But yeah, you like if somebody comes up to the research module, you're like, hey, I need to research this thing. Well, you guys have to talk about it and say like, hey, which one is going to be the one that's the most effective? And then who has enough resources to give me till I can actually buy it? And then they may not even have it. So then you're kind of like, SOL.
Or while everybody's discussing the research, and the way something gets researched is by the number of doors opened, that while everybody's discussing what to research, someone just goes, hey, why don't I just open this door? Which literally is your research currency.
Yeah.
And just got wasted.
I kind of did that. So anyway.
So they also released a new game. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Endless Space and Endless Space 2.
Well, no, there's one.
And what else?
Endless Dungeon.
Ooh.
Oh.
They put out an article on December 10th, 2020 that's on their Steam profile for Dungeon of the Endless. A game called Endless Dungeon.
Huh.
Nice. I'm wondering if it borrows some of the gameplay elements that they use in Endless Space, because they also have Endless Legend.
Huh.
So they kind of got a whole series of, I guess, these style games.
Oh, release date to be announced.
Okay, so
it
that
looks like
one's
it
not out
hasn't
yet.
been released yet.
Oh, snap. Dude, it's like, okay, so ours was Dungeon of the Endless was top down.
This is more 3D.
8/16-bit. This is isometric 3D, like high resolution Zycia.
Oh, wow.
That it's baller.
Interesting.
Check it out.
Yeah.
All right. So I also played something else this week, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. So I installed Rocket League again.
You
It
like
happened.
uninstalled it.
Oh, I have uninstalled it. I haven't played it in 5 months. And I installed it again. I had opinions, and I still have those opinions about it, Psyonix selling out to Epic and that whole fiasco and how the game is
like
changed.
an addict.
It wasn't a fiasco.
Like an addict, I went back.
Wait. No. We got to back up, because this is actually something I wanted to ask Tom earlier. Tom, it wasn't a fiasco.
No, not in the slightest. Rocket League is in the best place that it's ever been. The playership,
something that
the
Mike
player
was
base is
predicting
literally
about this.
tripled.
So, Tom, when did you start playing Rocket League?
A month after it released.
Like on Epic or like originally?
Originally, I bought a PlayStation
great.
4 so that I could play
Right.
Rocket League.
Okay, cool. So we're on the same playing field then, because I started in 2015 as well.
And then I bought a PC because I wanted to be able to, like, I'm an Apple guy. I should have an iMac or a MacBook Pro or something nice like that.
As you were saying, yeah.
But I have a PC so that I can play Rocket League. That's
wow, that's intense. So the obviously the game then, so you understand the changes that happened in the game and where it's at now versus where it was. And yeah, there was a lot of good things that did come with Epic. Because I mean, we went from, you know, being excited about seeing like 68,000 users online. You're like, wow, that's crazy on a Friday night. And then it went to like now there's like hundreds and hundreds of thousands or potentially millions of users playing Rocket League at one time, which is just unheard of.
Every day there's a million people in the middle of the day.
So on that side, yes, absolutely great for Psyonix. I think personally some of the choices they made to me in the sense of like kind of Fortniteizing the game, which literally we made jokes about that. And as soon as it went to Epic, of course, there was a llama truck or a llama bus or whatever joining the game. Now there's like a F-150 in the game. And I'm like, you know, F-150 to me is like, I guess it also based on where I grew up, like that to me is like I don't want to see a F-150. Like that's not my thing. And having to see that in a game that like I'm all about, I was like, this is just like they're getting out of hand. Like they definitely sold out is what I would consider. But again, it was definitely a good move for Psyonix. I understand that, and for the game of Rocket League itself. But the biggest thing that I hated about it was the toxicity. And they were working towards having the ability to be able to ban players, be able to report players that are doing toxic things. And then when they went to Epic, now everyone can make a new account with the drop of a hat. So they went from being able to ban all these people and try to really cut down on the toxicity to now where, I mean, if you get banned, who cares? I'll just make another Epic account and now I'm playing Rocket League again. And that's the issue that I really had the biggest concern with. It was like they just don't care. I mean, they obviously, you know, they did it and they haven't done anything to try to fix that. That's still an issue. And then also the smurfing. Smurfing was the other part. It was just people playing the game at way lower than the rank they should be. And they were just playing just to destroy people, just to make themselves feel good. And those two things is what really turned me off come November or December when I actually stopped and uninstalled it finally after, I think, 1,200 hours.
I mean, honestly, I mean, they are a business. It's not selling out. I mean, to go to the next level, to do bigger and better things, you have to do some things like this sometimes. And I get why they're not working on the toxicity that much, especially when you have Nextdoor taking care of it for you.
I wonder where we were going with this. Good. Ultimately, I say all that.
It was a hell of a lead up for that one, but hey.
Ultimately, I say all that. I literally installed it again, and I've been playing, and I've been streaming. I streamed for 6 hours the other day playing Rocket League online just because I'm addicted. It's an addiction, and it's, I'm not going to say it's a problem, but there's no other game. The only other game that I've played for an X amount of time, which at that point was only 800 hours, was DayZ. And it was something about that game with the community that I was playing with and like having the ability to like kind of jump into this other world. But like since then, Rocket League has been really the only game that I can play consistently. And it's quick. Like you can play a match and be off, or you can play matches all night. And the ability to, when you score, that feeling you get of when you do score, there's just something about that adrenaline that you do that makes you really feel good. And that's what drives me back.
Especially since there's so many different graphics that can be done when you score, and that everybody else gets to see the graphic that you chose. Yes. And that's the best. Like you got League of Legends, and League of Legends is big, huge, right? And Fortnite is big, and there's a lot of cosmetics that's sold. I mean, some of the, we've said it over and over and over and over again. If you're going to go free to play, make your money off cosmetics. Don't do pay to win. Yeah. Don't ever do pay to win. And all three of those games follow that credence that they do cosmetics. But League of Legends, your character's like this little bitty thing on the screen and going really fast. And so then they had to do like big explosions and stuff like that. And even then they're not that big on screen. And then Fortnite, you got all these outfits you put on and pretty much you don't see them, and pretty much other people don't see them too much unless they get close to you, and then you're in a firefight anyway. But Rocket League, one, the car cosmetics are good, and you see them quite clearly all the time. And even better when you do that score, like you said, that adrenaline, and there's this huge thing of the cosmetic you chose, and everybody gets to see it. Yeah. And then that just drives sales for those cosmetics. So that's just brilliant.
Yeah. Like I said, go ahead.
I was just going to say, speaking of cosmetics, they just came out with the Lamborghini Huracan
yesterday.
And I've never dropped $20 so fast. Like, I don't care about Lamborghini. I don't care about those cars at all. But man, so like there was a time in Rocket League where I wouldn't buy all the DLCs that they would come out with. And now like my friend has the Hot Wheels one that he drives around every now and then. And then, there's like the Pontiac car, there's a Dodge Charger that I don't have. And there's a thing in my family. I have some cousins that live in a farmhouse that's been in our family for 150 years. And this obviously has nothing to do with gaming, but there were many rooms that we went through and he's like, we're still going through this stuff because, I have the family gene, because a lot of people in our family tend to hoard things. And I have done very good at getting rid of my physical things. I don't keep a lot of stuff around me anymore because I know I just don't need it. But when it comes to digital items, I want all of them. Like, I just want all of them. And I mean, I love the cosmetic side of it.
I mean, it's almost like your outlet, I guess you could say, like the way that you deal with your so-called, not necessarily addiction, because it's not for you, but there's something that you're aware of that you're able to be able to use that.
It's 100. Cool. It's 100% digital for me. And every single time I get a new level and that Rocket Pass item comes in, I just get so excited. I'm just so revved up. I think the interesting thing, so toxicity, I mean, that's just like a whole other episode of a podcast, because that's every single game that you're ever going to play.
Yes,
true. And that's every single experience that you're going to have online. And at the end of the day, like going back to what we were talking about earlier, and if we could turn the slider down on toxicity, or maybe take some of that money that Intel is spending on, a designer to design and code those filters, like, let's send some money to school programs and make kids feel better about themselves so they don't feel like that they have to attack other people randomly on the internet. Like, there's nothing that we can do to get away from that. And all you can do is know that, like, some Joe Schmo on the other side of a computer that's a keyboard warrior doesn't make you any less of a person because they tell you that you're bad at a game or they made out with your mom last night. Like, it is what it is. And let's just move on and play the game.
Yeah. The other thing too is, with Overwatch, for example, as one of the examples, is that, with their chat and their toxicity, they actually were able to implement a way to like kind of filter out their chat. I mean, and even that would be a huge accomplishment for Rocket League, instead of having just a reporting system. Like, how about just not show toxic stuff in the chat? Like, that's an easy thing that people have already done. So like, even stuff like that. I mean, I love the chat, and I do like to talk to random people and like, say, hey, like, nice job. But even with that, it's hard to give people compliments because they automatically assume that it's negative because you're saying something sarcastically or there's no way you're being nice to me on Rocket League. Like,
exactly.
It's also just because the power of negativity is so immense out there on the internet and so prevalent that, like, even games where you don't have the normal social interactions, like, little phone game, called Clash Royale. You can't type, you can't talk to the person. All you can do is you can make your king do little emotes. And even then, people found ways to be toxic. It's like when you like miffed an attack or something, they would do the little crying emote a whole bunch of time and make fun of you. And this triggered people. This like caused people to get absolutely.
This reminds me of Hearthstone. Same thing.
Yeah, and that's exactly what. Yeah, similar to Hearthstone in some ways. Yeah, and that just something where there was no actual true 100% interaction, and trolls could still find a way.
Yeah, they're going to find a way.
Really irritate people. Yeah.
They're going to find a way, no matter what.
Yeah. Well,
next thing you know, they're going to find a way to make it toxic inside of single player games. But enough of that.
Anyway, Tom, that was my Rocket League. So I'm starting to play it again. If you want to watch me on stream, I'm most likely probably playing Rocket League at this point, unless something else comes up. Anyway.
Tom, do you have a game that you've been playing recently?
Yeah, Rocket League. That's basically all that I play. Occasionally I play Valorant with some friends. I'm not very good at that game, but
I've
it's
yet to
fun.
play it.
Nor am I.
Yeah, I do enjoy it a lot though. There's a streamer that I watch on a consistent basis who's a pro player for 100 Thieves. His name is Hiko. He's very good. And I don't know, like I used to play Counter-Strike when I was but a wee lad.
Yes, same.
Like I remember playing like 1.3 when it first came out.
Oh wow, I was 1.6. That was my jam.
Yeah, so like a long time ago. But you know, Valorant has been a lot of fun. It's fun to it's a little bit more fun for me because you know, I can talk to my friends a little bit more. It's a little bit more slow paced than Rocket League is. And I'm such a sweaty tryhard when it comes to Rocket League that I just have to put every little bit of my effort into it and my focus. So Valorant is like a cool down, but really it makes me rage more. So figure that one out. But that's mostly what I play and what I've been playing.
Nice. What about you, Brian? You got anything this week other than the game of the month?
Not much. I started up my Saturday stream, which I'm going to try to continue, which is World of Warcraft. And I started a brand new character, this bright and optimistic human fighter called Sunther. And he went out to the world and got killed on his very first boss fight. And woke up as a forsaken undead and took on the name of Unther and is struggling with this change of events, and that is psychologically taxing on him because he's trying to return back to his former life and finding some things as being an undead of like, oh, this isn't too different. I'm fighting other undead and doing a good thing here. And then starting to do some things that are a little detestable. And he's like justifying them. Like, I'm now killing other fellow humans, but they were bad humans because they were holding this person captive. So it's an interesting psychological change that he's going through.
Cool.
Wait, so
that's just the first episode.
You're playing WoW, right?
Yep.
But is it on a RP server or you're just doing this all yourself?
Oh, they don't even have RP servers anymore.
They don't?
They don't have PvP servers or non-PvP servers. You flag if you want to be PvP or not. No, this is just me, myself, just going through the missions from level 1, actually level 1 twice as I went over to Undead. And just RPing this character. Yeah.
Okay. So you started with the human character and then purposefully died and then started over again.
No, not purposefully. He was not very competent in that fight. That was his fault.
Right. That was his fault. So then as he was going, all right.
Yeah,
nice.
Check it out. It's on his Twitch. He'll be streaming on Saturday, so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
I had him up for a little bit this last weekend.
I'll be dropping that on my YouTube channel as well, I believe, because I think I have it fully recorded. So I'll be dropping it there. And yeah, it's just following the trials and tribulations that Unther the undead is going through.
The friendly undead.
Yeah,
maybe.
Well,
you'll have to tune in and find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know where this character is going to go yet. I like literally at one point in time, and believe me, oh my God, one of my triggers is pretty much violence against people in general, but especially violence against people that, you know, socially is very unacceptable. I have huge triggers against them. Like, I get really mad when people are violent against pets or violent against women or children or stuff like that. The two guys beat on each other. I saw that in Detroit all the time. But at one point in time, the character's like, I can't believe you made me hit you.
Oh gosh.
Which is such a detestable thing to say. And it was just like, that's how that character was that minute, because a woman had attacked him and he fought back. And in no way, shape, or form am I really trying to joke about it. But I'm like, it's this weird, again, this psychological tribulation and stress that this character is going through, is trying to go back to being human again and find himself as undead, something that he hates, and having to do these things that he hates and the weird things. Definitely not justifying any of his actions. He is not meant to be role played as necessarily.
Do not try this at home.
Hero. Yeah, he's not a fun-loving hero. That's for sure.
Interesting.
All right, well, let's get into our news shorts today. Our short attention news.
I got my shorts on. No, starting off with a fun one, much more lighthearted, was some of you may be aware of these actors. Brie Larson, who played Miss Marvel, and Tessa Thompson, who plays Valkyrie. Again, they have other things that they play. Those are just the recent Marvel roles that they are somewhat known for. Apparently, Brie Larson has her own YouTube channel, quite a number of followers, and she just kind of texted or tweeted Tessa Thompson about playing some Fortnite. And sure enough, they got together. And actually, the article in this Games Radar, the title in this Games Radar article is Brie Larson taught Tessa Thompson how to play Fortnite, and it's adorable. Well, the adorable thing is right. The rest of it's kind of clickbaity, but it's the best kind of clickbaity. It's where your expectations from the title are so surpassed by what the real thing is. And the real thing is that Tessa Thompson actually didn't play. It ends up being a better video with her talking to Brie Larson. Brie Larson actually playing, Tessa Thompson saying, "Hey, go here or do this and do this thing." And they're like, "Hey, I really want you to tame a wolf." And she ends up taming a wolf. It's a fun, 11-minute video, easy to find out there. It is really cool and fun to watch, and well edited too, by the way. Check it out.
All right. Next, we have a little blurb of unexpected news, not news. Bloomberg out of Japan decided to put something out saying that Square Enix was looking for a suitor, somebody to take them under their umbrella. And of course, Square Enix is the legendary creator of the Final Fantasy series, Fire Emblem. They now have taken Enix, of course, under their wing with, I can't even remember what the series is now, but Enix was the starter of, gosh, I can't remember, but another really, really good RPG series. And then Square Enix recently came out and said, no, that is not the case. We're very happy living alone and single, doing our own things. We don't need any sugar daddies. We are going to continue doing our own thing and how we want to do it, which I am happy. They bring up Bethesda being recently purchased by Microsoft, and we just don't need that for Square Enix.
Yeah, that's, like you said, it is one of those legendary companies that for Bloomberg to kind of report that someone somewhere must have said something. But for that person, they either Square Enix is trying to cover it, or that person probably didn't really mean that exactly.
Well, or the other thing to think about too is, in this industry, there's always someone talking about buying someone else. Always. Yeah. And whether whether the actual other company knows about it or not is up in the air. And it could just be something like that it could be Microsoft actually was thinking about buying them. They just hadn't approached Square Enix yet, and just the wrong person talked. And there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. Tom, were you thinking of Kingdom Hearts?
No, I wasn't.
That's a good.
That's another. I mean,
Square
Enix is just so good at RPGs. So yeah, it was originally SquareSoft, right? Role playing game, and of course, I'm a lot
Square initially,
older than the average person. I mean, there's Chrono Trigger. I'm trying to think of what it is, and I'm going through their list of games right now. Dragon Quest.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
That was originally created in the 80s or 90s by Enix. and it was just Enix. And then somewhere in like the 90s or early 2000s, Enix was purchased by Squaresoft, or they merged maybe, and they formed Square Enix. So yeah, that's the original Dragon Warrior, which turned into Dragon Quest, was released in 1986, the same year that Final Fantasy was released. Fun fact.
There you go.
So Nintendo has now claimed the best-selling racing game in U.S. history. So reported by the NPD group, Matt Pacelli, Pacetea maybe? He's executive director of the Video Game Industry Advisory, and he announced that the Mario Kart 8 has surpassed Mario Kart on the Wii, which was released in 2008. And while they don't know the exact numbers, Mario Kart 8 was originally released in the Wii in 2014 and sold 8.45 million units in 2020. And then when they released it on the Switch, they ended up selling 33.41 million units. So this has ultimately put Mario Kart as the top selling racing game of all time, which is kind of wild to think about. But yeah, there you have it.
Super wild. Even more wild is getting those sweet, sweet deets on what is in stock for PlayStation 5 and your Xbox console. And well, I mean, all kinds of, like, if you like our monthly free games video drop that we do, then you better be a fan of @Wario64 on Twitter. So it was great relief when reported by harddrive.net that the US government was going to reach an agreement with Wario64 to announce COVID vaccine availability. So that way we've got, I mean, one user was like, it's been really great because I've actually been trying to grab the vaccine and a PS5. So I put on the tweet notifications and I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. Okay. All that is a satire site. It wasn't a real article. The government did not reach out to Wario64, but proving that Wario64 actually does have a sense of humor about this. Shortly after the satirical fake article came out, he actually did tweet out that there were 237 vaccine times available in San Antonio right now. So
that's so funny.
He went ahead and made that article a reality.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Over to you, Tom.
Well, the one website that we all love, and at the same time, the company that we love to hate, Amazon, they have such a handle on all of our lives because we just can't do without that 2-day shipping. We finally found something that they suck at, and that is creating video games. It has recently been announced that they have canceled their third video game, a game that would actually probably be pretty interesting to play, a Lord of the Rings MMO RPG, has been nixed for reasons that I didn't go through the article that came out on IGN that I'm looking at right now. But it has been canceled, unfortunately, and this follows a couple other games that they tried to release. One called Breakaway, which was like a dodgeball 5-on-5 or like a MOBA game, and then Crucible, which was a take on a first or third person shooter game. Both did not do well, and Amazon once again is out of the gaming space. Besides, of course, our homestead Twitch.
Yeah. So Nintendo, if you're familiar, again, as we talk about more Nintendo news, if you're following who the CEO is, his name is Bowser. Actually, last name is Bowser. So this headline says Nintendo sues Bowser for violating copyrights with Switch hacks. But it gets more confusing because we've mentioned this before. There's actually a hacker named Bowser who makes hacks for Switches and a bunch of different other platforms. And we had mentioned before that he did get arrested for violating copyright law and selling these hacks from the Switch and things. Well, they're finally getting to that lawsuit, and the lawsuit, if successful, Nintendo would obviously shut down all Bowser's actual, hacking facilities and operations. But they would extract $2,500 for each trafficked device, plus $150,000 per copyright violation. So this would literally take them out of business forever.
And then some.
Yeah.
And then some.
Yikes.
Good gravy. Well, Nintendo may have the best-selling racing game of all time, but apparently the PS5 is the fastest-selling console in U.S. history, even with the COVID restrictions on being able to create these darn things fast enough. That's right. So far, the PS5 is the fastest selling console, beating out the Nintendo Wii, which had a record of $552 million set back in March 2008, where the PlayStation 5 has $680 million. Now, part of this article that's in gamesradar.com as well does state that the Wii had sold more units, just that they were cheaper units, and that the PlayStation 5, being more expensive units, was able to grab at least the dollar amount side of this. So kudos to them. Keep selling. And, they're selling out, and eventually these scalpers are going to have to run out of money buying these things because people are going to stop buying them from them.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sony and stores and availability, it was recently announced that Sony was going to be closing down their other very successful stores, the PS3 and Vita game stores. And of course, those of us out there that haven't been able to get their hands on a PS5 or for some reason a PlayStation 4 ? Complained that they were going to be shutting down these stores. I mean, the PS3 came out in what, like 2006, 2007, like a long time ago. And yet people still complained that they were shutting down the stores. So Sony, being the good and wholesome company that they are, decided to change course and leave those stores up for people so that they could continue to search for their 10 and 15-year-old games to hopefully find something new in a moment of boredom while they're sitting at home on the weekend. Because, I mean, God knows they can't get a PS5.
That's true. There's that.
That's true. Now, to be fair, and Tom, you didn't know this information. One of the things is the Vita actually being not quite as old, although close to 10 years. So that it is still up there in age. Part of the consternation there is that there were developers still creating games for the Vita.
Yeah, they had just purchased the Vita.
They had just released them, and then had no notification that the stores were being shut down.
I had no idea about that part.
So those, and it's still, your point is still valid that it's a very, 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 very small part of the market.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that they had some new people that were getting affected. Who would have thunk that people were still making games for the Vita?
Yeah.
Not I.
What are they thinking? How big?
I don't know.
How big is that market? How many people are still carrying a PS Vita in their backpack? Come on, man.
Right?
That's a good point.
I mean, I get it's more popular out in Japan. You see them all the time in the subways, I hear.
That may be.
Especially, but at least a couple of years ago it was. I don't know about now. But still, I mean, like, just make the game for the Switch right now.
Just get an iPhone.
Yeah.
Just get an iPhone.
So we mentioned this. This is actually a twofer. So we mentioned this last week that there was rumors about potentially Discord going to be bought by Microsoft. Well, Discord announced that has actually ended. They have no intention of being bought out by Microsoft now. They have actually reported that they're going to potentially go out for IPO for themselves to actually potentially open up. I can't wait for that. But in other news,
buy stock in that instantly.
Absolutely. In other news, if you're familiar with the Pokemon Go app, there's a new game.
Wait. I do think it was funny that like the same day they announced that they weren't going to be bought out by Microsoft, that a whole ton of their servers went down.
It's true.
I mean, I'm not going to say Microsoft had anything to do with that.
But I am going to say Microsoft had something to do with that.
So a little bonus
anyway,
for you. There's if you're familiar with the Pokemon Go game and the Niantic and the way that those style games go with the GPS location and also the AR, the augmented reality, there is a new game coming to you if you're a Witcher fan. So Witcher has a new game coming out called Witcher Monster Slayer. It's going to be available I think on both devices, iOS and also Play Store. Android users can pre-register now. The trailer looks pretty neat. Doesn't really show a whole lot, but the idea is you'll be able to fight all of the monsters in the Witcher lore out in the public and just walking around and doing things. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. It'll be available soon. And that's basically it. So we typically go into emails, which right now we have no emails except spam. So if you want us to send us an email, it's GOA@sassgaming.com. Again, that's GOA@SASSGAMING.com. Send us an email. It doesn't matter what it is. Tell us what you think. Tell us, what you don't think. Tell us what you're doing. Whatever. Just send us an email. And that is what got our attention this week. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at XYCIA or Zycia on Twitch. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Zycia Gaming. You can also find Brian. How?
No, guests first. Tom, tell us about your socials. How can people find you? How can people follow what you do?
Anywhere on the internet, you can find me at I Wanted Just Tom, because Tom is never available. So just I Wanted Just Tom, and I will be there.
Sweet.
Awesome. You can find me at Phoenix Nova, PHOENNIX_Nova on Twitch. Get rid of the underscore for just about anything else, and you'll be able to find me, except for YouTube, because they got a stupid rule. You got to have so many followers before you can name the channel after yourself. It's dumb.
Yeah, well, eventually we'll get there. Well, Tom, it's been a pleasure having you on this week. We do thank you for stopping by, and I'm glad that we were able to catch up and hang out and talk about some stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate having the opportunity. It was a good time.
Yeah, definitely a good time. So for those listeners out there, until next time, you guys be safe. And I'll just keep it at that. Be safe, have a good time, and have a good night. Y'all take care.